Oh, yes. Hey, dog chin. Yeah, yeah, that's a nice improvement. Nice.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Tony, would you do us do we need to take this next? Could everybody stand and please stay standing for the pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we are grateful to be in a place that is just so spectacularly wonderful. Green grass and blooming trees and flowers and the warmth, Lord, is just the renewal of our season. And Lord, it just felt good to drive here. And Lord, we ask you in the world of this city that you would bring renewal and things that bloom and wonders and success and bless this city. Lord, for that, we ask you to bless those who work here, who strive to serve the citizens and give them strength and your favor in doing that. Lord, there's a busy agenda and lots of things happening. And Lord, we just ask you to bless our council members and mayor with wisdom. Give them your strength so that they may make good decisions. Lord, for those who are here tonight to participate or listen, let that be a wonderful, really a blessing to them to see people working hard and doing their job with wonder. Lord, we thank you for democracy and for a chance to participate and ask you to make us worthy for those things. In Jesus' name.
Amen. The pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll call everybody's present tonight, so we don't need to go ahead and call everybody. Next is the agenda approval. There a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. All in favor. Thank you. All right, for new business, we have our emergency management, Walton County Emergency Management. They're here tonight. Tell us a little bit about the statewide mutual aid assistance agreement. We have some new people on the council, and it's
JB.
JB. All right, sorry, JB.
Good evening, y'all. My name is JB Welchel. I'm the new kid on the block here, so I haven't seen many of your faces. I appreciate you letting us facilitate this. I'm actually going to let y'all stack up the Rolodex a little bit more. You guys might know Carl Barham, our director, and he's here with me just in case I start rambling on.
I'm sure you'll be fine.
I appreciate you help move this along. I assume that you guys have a copy of this.
Everybody has a
I
copy.
have had a chance to read it.
Mhm.
I hate to call this a formality because it's a renewal, because I know there's a lot of new faces here. Some people have been around a while, we've made in different roles. So if there's any questions in particular you have about it, please let me know. This is sort of a document that gets everybody on the same page.
Right.
And definitely keeps the wheels turning when something big happens and doesn't leave you come down the rain. Just kind of fend it for yourself. This document itself actually kind of outlines, what the roles and responsibilities of what we consider for participating parties and what your benefits and some of your responsibilities are. It goes either way. Either you're asking for help or somebody that you for help. This keeps everything, it gets rid of some of the red tape, to be honest with you, and just moves laterally develop very, very simply.
And we need to indicate on here,
Yes, ma'am.
the people who are able to call you, when there is, we can say authorized.
Authorized parties that, correct. It would be the authorized parties as well as your fiscal officer, who would be the person that would be documenting all the costs that are associated with either something that you guys are providing to another requesting party, or if you guys are going to be requesting, have to be keeping track of what you're going to have to pay for again. Say, for instance, if there was some personnel costs or material costs or something was broken in the process of helping you guys out, and that we have somebody to be responsible for those.
Okay. Can you give us an example of like an emergency that happened in the county that this is coming in handy for the
And my man, for
Sorry.
actual examples, like give you a hypothetical.
Sure.
If there was a storm, for instance, this weekend, we're getting a ton of rain. If there was some flooding going on, that you guys maybe had some roads washed out or something to that nature, you guys needed some help. And you're kind of in a situation where you guys are already receiving services from the county. Some of those things, might have to be augmented. Since if you had a neighborhood or a school
Mhm.
building that needed some extra anti-looting security, or you needed some extra bulldozers to come in and help out, and that might accommodate some of those services that you might not get. Doesn't necessarily mean the county's not going to do stuff for you anyway,
Sure.
but it's going to make sure that everybody's on the same page and get the same money, as well as the fact that if there's a major aid package coming in from a major disaster, it allows us to sort of help divvy things out and give you guys, your portion of it and possibly, arrange some of that. But it keeps us all together, and you guys asking for help from FEMA team and us asking for help. You can kind of get on board with us and we can start getting some of those packages accounting for everybody that's.
Okay, great. And this is done every 4 years?
It is 4 years.
Sure.
If we were to, God forbid, a tornado hits Walton County or something, and we were to get those services, there will be, an account of the services that we receive from other cities, and we would then pay them back for those services at a different time, or it is federal aid that comes.
If you're getting, if an aid package is coming down financially, then they might be getting some of that money too, and then they might be able to channel that, through Walton to you guys. But that's probably going to be a unique situation.
I'm sorry, he's doing great, by the way. There's two ways, because we've dealt with this in the past. There's two ways that it'll happen. So if, let's just say y'all have some problems here with sewer or roads, whatever you request, Lowville or Monroe or whoever to come help you guys. Well, they have cost by sending personnel and equipment over here. So either A, y'all can agree upon that request with whoever you put it out with, that y'all will get all the reimbursement and then pay Lowville or whoever or they can request that money. So that's what this agreement will do. So it can go either way, whatever y'all agree upon when you get services.
Okay.
The county will send what we have and what we can. Because we're gonna request that on the back end.
That's streamlined some of that money too. We're requesting reimbursement in major disaster, and declare the disaster, so that if you guys are getting some of the services, we can include that and get our money that helps us pay for those services we give you guys, versus us trying to just use a smaller amount of money to do more stuff if we were going to come in. I will say this has been unanimous across all the municipalities so far. So, like I said, I don't want to call it formality at this point. There's a lot of folks that need to know what's going on.
I'm sorry, Debbie, you know me, I've got to interject this a little bit. What the document, the back page, the financial stuff, what that does for you guys. If me and JV are busy with county doings and it's time for reimbursement, whoever you put on that back, mainly your financial officers, they can skip our process and y'all can apply for that funding yourselves. And whoever's name is on it, you will talk to them. If you don't put that name on there, you're not going to talk to them. They're going to wait on me, which may take me months to get over here to do something.
Okay.
Both of them, sir.
Anybody have any other questions? 1 minute. You need this signed by.
Hopefully, the next time you guys are.
We need
it expires, the sooner the better, because it does expire the 21st, 25th of this month.
Yeah.
So, we're pretty much tidying up all the loose signatures at this point and trying to get it out to them, because GMIN also needs to be able to do their part and get their signatures, and we can get your copy back to you.
When you guys came to the office, we worked out the details on these that knew it was going to be on this work
Yes.
session because we have a council meeting next week. Thank you.
If
very
anything
much.
else comes up, you have to for any.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Just a question if it's allowed, Mayor. Okay.
It's not for you, for him. I mean, for her, sorry.
Oh.
For you, Mayor. And for council in general, I'm not really sure who would answer this, but who are we gonna put on this last page?
As the designated fiscal officer, I would put me, and I would put the city clerk.
Right.
Okay, that's what I'm.
Do you have any other ideas?
No, I was not curious. No, ma'am, no, thank you,
You
ma'am.
sure?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. No, I just was wondering, because I was like,
Okay.
If it helps y'all on that last page, and even on the page before,
Mhm.
you can put me down as one of them on the bottom there. Just to fill the page in, if that's what you desire. Even though I'm gonna be the one, and Gina knows that I'll be the one requesting it for y'all, but if you just, for document purposes, you can put me down. And that's just telling Gina that you give us permission to go after this money for y'all.
Okay.
It's so needed.
Yeah.
We're still gonna do it anyway, it's just a formality.
Thanks, Carl.
Yep.
Okay, this will be on next week's agenda to be voted on, guys. Okay. All right, next thing up is SPOS. We are having a new SPOS, come up. This one that we're in right now is, 2019 to 2024. The next one coming up is 2025. For 6 years. And I met with all the other mayors and the county, and we have an IGA ready, which is an intergovernmental agreement contract. Do you all have copies of it?
Yes.
What the county has asked us to do, all of the cities to do, is there is a new, building, a public safety complex coming into jail. The cost of that jail is $34,560,000. And the county has asked all the cities to pitch in, since it is a facility that all the counties will be using, at one point or another. And so the mayors got together and agreed that yes, we would go ahead and, put in for that. And we all are putting in a portion based on the 2020 census for each of our cities. It leaves the city of Walnut Grove with approximately 1,365,000 and some change for the next SPOS period of 6 years. If we didn't agree to this, we would have to, or the county would have to look at raising property taxes. Whereas this money, the SPOS money that comes in is coming in from people who travel through our town and spend their money. And so why not have them pay for it rather than us in our property taxes? Okay. So if you look at the second to last, or third to last back page, you can see the city of Walnut Grove gets the 1,000,003 something. The numbers have all been figured. I've worked out all the numbers too. There are several cities with managers and they have all worked with numbers. And what you have in front of you is the intergovernmental agreement contract, as well as, I believe you should have, the notice of call of a special election. The SPOS will be put on the special election on the 21st day of May of this year. And that's why we're having to look at this now and decide if this is something we want to do or not. This is something that the city did the last time around. Negotiations for this were very civil. It was a very easy process. The county and the cities all worked together very easily. And since the jail is something that has to be done, there is no option to not do it anymore. The cities and the mayors agreed to do this in the best interest of all the cities and citizens. And so I bring it to you today to see if you have any questions.
I don't have any questions, Mayor, but I do have a comment.
Yeah.
I don't recall, it was the last blossom the one before, but I was fortunate to be part of the Municipal Association where they covered SPOS and how it works. And one thing that comes to mind that I don't know if they're going to offer something like that again, but since this is coming up so quickly, if we do agree to this, it's also my understanding that we have to be careful as council that we cannot support for or against. We can educate people about SPOS and what it is.
You're absolutely right.
So
We cannot advertise or try and sway people in their way of thinking. This is a vote that the citizens have to take on their own. We can educate, but we cannot try and sway anybody. Okay. Also, I did want to bring up that when we were asked to bring this to you guys. We also had to approve what we were gonna spend the money on. And in the past, we had done roads and road improvements. And then we had also done, I think, building upgrades. This time around, I have put on their vehicles and major equipment, because we need some vehicles and equipment. Sewer expansion and infrastructure, trying to help us out with our next stage, or possibly this one. Transportation, drainage, paving and sidewalk projects, building upgrades, and parks and recreational projects. And that comes out to the total of 1.365, 676.39. So hopefully that will put us in good stead to take care of a few of the projects that really need to get done. Does anybody have any questions about this? Any concerns?
But the income for this one won't start until 2025, correct?
It will, yes. Yeah.
I don't have any questions.
Nothing else? Feel good? Okay, this is also going to go on the agenda for the next meeting, okay? Okay. The next thing on is Emerald Coast paving. This is another attempt to kind of clean up some of the stuff from previous administration. And I have in front of me two resolutions that the contracts that we had sent out request for quotes from engineering firms to give us a quote to let us know what it would cost to oversee the projects, whatever project it was going to be. I also have a bunch of emails. Has everybody been to Emerald Cove and walked it? I know you all have. You have. Have you had a chance to?
Of course.
Okay, great, great. I'm just gonna go ahead and open up the floor for discussion. I think it was discussed at length over the last year and a half or so, that something needs to be done. We had a committee that was put together, then we had a committee that was dissolved, we have emails, we have experts. It is my thought that what we should do is we should open up a discussion today to what you all want to do and where you want to see this go. And so that's what I'm asking of you.
I think that I have expressed in the past how I feel about the paving at Emerald Cove. I was walking to the park from my house today and seen an issue that nobody's even brought about yet, because you just notice something new every day, you know. It was done wrong to begin with. And we have experts that have stated that. And it needs to be corrected the right way, is how I feel about it. And if we need to have those engineers and to give presentations again, because we do have new council members, I think that would be great. We've actually not had an engineer in to give a presentation, so I think that would be good for all council members.
Okay.
I'm going to agree with you that I think we need to hear from the engineer, because that's the one factor that I'm missing. I've done some research on that. I'm talking to actually some out-of-state people that I knew personally that were in this field, and they created questions in my mind that they give me a idea of where I might like to go, but I want to hear from the local people, their comments, to see if that's in agreement with some of the materials and things I've received and talked with people about. One in particular, just to let you know, would be that when we talked about paving the gutters, the thing that I heard the most was gutters are there for a reason. Why would you pave them? So that would be one of the things I would be looking for in particular to hear.
Okay.
I believe that when we talked about this in the beginning, and we talked about what needed to be done was tapering the gutters. And tapering is not paving, it's making everything match. That's what we talked about in the beginning, and I think that's where we need to have that looked at too.
Okay.
But tapering and paving are two different things.
When you say.
We talked about tapering
Yeah.
in the beginning, that's what we called it. As we moved into discussions, it went to paving. And it's not paving the gutters and filling them full, it's evening the gutters where it needs to be done.
Are you talking about filling down the edges?
Mhm.
That's,
Okay.
I was making sure.
So we need to talk to some experts about that too and get their opinion.
Okay.
I know, go ahead. The experts that we spoke to previously on the paving committee, they gave us all these options and they talked about, in detail, which each one would, how it would happen and what would happen in years to come and all that good stuff. So I feel like if we have somebody in for a work session, we can ask them all these questions, put it all out on the table, and come up with a resolution.
Yeah, I agree. That's all I was gonna add. I agree. And I feel like we're all in agreement as a council that we definitely want to hear from experts so that we can make the best decision for the city, because we don't know what that is. I'm not a paving expert. I was on the paving committee. I got to hear that. I got to sit in on some of the council meetings and hear what's being discussed here as a resident, but we need those experts and we're gonna need to table this, I think, to the next work session.
You got to have some notes, there's some from the paving committee, the meetings that they'll have. They'll have any notes or anything like that?
I do have some. Yeah, yeah. I can share that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, who do we want to see and tell me who you want to see? Do you want to see Falcon? Do you want to see LMCO? Do you
I would
wanna
like
see
both to the,
Courtesy? Do you want to see Allied Paving? Do you want to see some other paving companies? I know, a smattering of everything.
well, Allied
We
Paving,
don't have to put it out and see who's interested in talking to us about it.
Now, in a work session, we can invite people to come talk to us so we can get a good idea of where or what they recommend.
Right, and I think Falcon and Ally were our top two contenders last time, and Ally was the one that came on and spoke to us at the paving committee, so I think for sure to have him come out and reiterate what he said about milling and what he said about what he would do if it was his neighborhood, because I remember asking him that question specifically and say, hey, this is your house right here, what would you do to this road? Yeah.
Anybody else? Any others?
I haven't been party to any of.
What about the engineering firms? When you heard of Allied and Falcon both provide their own engineering oversight.
Are we not interested in talking to precision planning?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the other thing I was gonna ask about. That's why I was asking about the engineering.
Yeah. Okay. And do you mean Jimmy? Let's bring Jimmy, ask Jimmy to come.
Yeah.
Do that. Okay. Anybody else?
now are we planning on having them all at one work session and allowing each one to speak individually? Is that how we're planning on doing it?
Let's just bring them all in. Let's ask the questions and yeah, get the answers.
We're really just seeking an opinion, an expert opinion, right?
Definitely. Okay. I will get in touch with the people who'll do that at the next work session, okay? All right. Next thing on the list is social media policy, and it seems since you brought that, would you mind going ahead and talking about that?
Okay, yeah, I had presented after going to several webinars and doing some research about the social media and what we're allowed to do, not allowed to do, and trying to get a real good handle on that, because the laws have changed a fair amount in the last 2 or 3 years since I first did research on this. I felt that it was important that we come up with a terms of use policy, so I took it upon myself to write one, figuring that would maybe be easier to start. And of course, I did not reinvent the wheel. I took what I got from the webinars and other things to create this document. But there's also a second document that would be a basic policy and procedure that would be more of an in-house thing, more about who would handle our social media and what the protocol would be, how it would be set up. Also, what's expected of employees as far as their social media presence and those sort of things. And all of those come into play in what we present as a city. So I thought the first phase would be for us to come up with what these terms of use would be. That's something that would be posted online for the general public to review and see, just kind of like your rules and regulations, but for a government entity, it's slightly different than it is for an individual.
In order to, so in terms of use, when you go to a Facebook page and you ask to be a part of it, you agree to these terms of use and then they let you be a member. Is that how this will work, or will it?
It's very similar. Number one, we have a page, not a group currently. Now, if we wanted to set up a group, that might be slightly different, but it's the same basic idea that you posted these, maybe, and we posted. These are our terms of use. So if someone comes on there, and let's say someone comes on there and starts using absolute obscene language that just would not be appropriate to be on our page, then we have set in place what we will do, you know, or what we can do. And if we don't set something in place, then due to First Amendment rights, there's very limitation on what we can do. But if we have these in place, it gives us a little more control of things that get out of hand. You know, if somebody comes over there and decides to be very threatening or something, we can remove those posts if we've got the right protocol in place. Now, I would certainly encourage the links that I sent for the webinar and the other things to listen to those, to hear their explanation of how it all works.
And Tony, when we were doing the sign ordinance, we had to be very careful about how we worded certain things. Do we need the attorney to look over these before?
You do. You want to be careful. Anytime you're speaking rules on social media communications, you want to be careful. I am really endorsing Maxine's concept of having policies. That's a no-brainer. Really good encouragement. You know what the city wants. The part that I have difficulty with is the trigger of what you do when somebody violates that rule. And so there are a lot of protections when people want to speak about the government, even when they want to use bad language.
Right.
You can't stop them.
Right.
And so it just, the rule, the policy itself says this, we're decent people, we want to have a nice exchange. But when it comes to taking somebody off or taking their words off, that's where we really got to be real careful and sort of in the enforcement stage involve other people in coming up with how that trigger gets pulled and maybe our remedy may be to really contact the social media and Facebook and ask them to review their protocols. It's probably the safest thing for us to do.
I noticed that county is having a lot of issues with their their Facebook page as well with spammers, for instance. And I know that's not exactly free speech and it has nothing to do with governmental topics that are on their county page. But they've caught a lot of flack for not having a policy to get rid of them, basically, because they were saying we're not sure what to do with this. And so this is, to me, I think this is a great preemptive preventative maintenance measure and also a protective measure for our citizens who are using the Water Facebook page to let them feel like they're not being fished for scammers.
Right.
And I did send a copy of this to our attorneys so that they have that document. And then, of course, we would want the policies put in place as well, because that does then dictate how these terms are handled. Having them there, we don't want to just put them there and anybody run rampant with, you know, if somebody says something, you know, you can't go on there and kick them off because you don't like what they say. You have to have a very valid reason, and that's what we're trying to establish is what would those valid reasons be?
Thank you. Take your initiative.
Where do you guys see it going from here? Or where do you see it going from here? Let's see. What do we need to do?
My feeling is we let the attorney review, and if he feels we need to call anybody else and review what I put out here, and I did take the majority of these from the webinars. They provided templates and different things, and one was, sorry, I don't have her name with me, an attorney, I believe she was out of Covington, that specializes in social media, that had presented one of the webinars I attended. And so I didn't change them too much, just to accommodate for us, because we're a little smaller than some of the cities, and so that might change slightly, but
I would encourage adopting as quick as we can, get posted as quick as we can. The next step would be enforcement procedures, which we should probably be a little more cautious with and take our time. There's another really important part of the thought process, which is, okay, with our own employees and our own communications, do we want to have rules that are in part of the employment manual that deal with social media? And there's been problems that came out of in other cities. That's been an area where problems have arisen, where people, saying things about their supervisor and other things, which was probably not appropriate, or their discipline and that sort of thing. But it's just how you want to regulate your employees, and inter-department communications would be a third step. So.
Would you, in your expertise, would you adopt this before we had enforcement in place?
Yes.
You would.
And the reason is you're saying all the good things that you want your communications on Facebook to be. And when somebody violates that rule, they're violating your rule. And you're not endorsing that conduct. You have a standard. This is the way we want to have communications going. And at a base level, your constituents can enforce that by saying simply, hey, you're violating the rules. But when it comes to turning speech off, that needs to be done cautiously. But they are clearly, and I'm sure the county gets into this. I had it happen in a really important council meeting that had to be on the video and during the pandemic, and there is communications online like that is just so vulgar, it goes way past the constitutional standard. So we do need some enforcement tools, and that council set to turn it off. It was awful. I mean, so a meeting had to be canceled. So.
You want to give this to Tony, make sure we can review it again? And
We've seen it, yeah.
if everybody is prepared, we could adopt this at the next meeting next week.
You reviewed it and you approved it?
Yes, yeah, it's good. It's good. We might talk to Maxine a little bit about how to adjust it just slightly, but we can have it ready for the next meeting.
Could we have it ready a few days in advance so everybody could look at it?
Absolutely, yes.
Any other discussion on that topic?
I have a question for the attorney. Tony, if I'm clear on this, we can adopt this. That doesn't mean we have to enforce everything here or have all of those in place. But if there's something that's very egregious in the meantime, then we are in a better position to handle that. Is that correct?
What I
Like bring it to you and say, do you think it's okay if we remove this because?
the editing part would probably be to take out the "we're going to remove" statement. It's probably to edit it so that it says, these are things that our policy is against doing this. And, it's personal attacks. It's setting the rules and posting those rules. This is the type of communication is our expectation of communication on our Facebook page. And so it doesn't give a remedy or talk about a remedy. It simply says, and you're automatically, somebody calls and says, your Facebook page, somebody really blasted me. So, but our policies again, and it's posted on the Facebook page. They're not supposed to do that. And, and we will work out an arrangement where we can regulate whatever we can regulate, but we cannot violate people's First Amendment right, because we're a government.
Absolutely.
So in that instance, Facebook, so each group or page will have their rules for their people to abide by. And if those rules are broken, if it is reported to Facebook, will Facebook remove those comments, or do you know?
I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that Facebook rules are more or less separate from this. This is what we would be putting in place would be something that we would enforce when enforcement is the appropriate action. Facebook rules are different. Facebook can come in and remove stuff from our page, I'm assuming, without us having any say. So if they see something, if it breaks their rules, I'm assuming. I see on Facebook all the time where people say, I said something or I used this word or that word. I'm in Facebook jail now. I'm fortunate I haven't been in Facebook jail, so I don't know how that works exactly.
The Supreme Court's looking, this is a hot topic in the law. So, y'all know that the Justice Department gave instructions on some type of speech, and it was removed, and our people were shadowed in ways that kept their information from being visible. And two courts have already said that was unconstitutional. And so the Supreme Court's going to give us some instruction in this area, and Facebook some instruction in this area. And so when we're modifying the Facebook rules by our intervention, we're stepping into the position of the Justice Department. So we probably need to see that Supreme Court decision, which is going to come out in the next year, in order to really know what we should do and what we shouldn't do.
I have a question. How many city pages do we have other than the City of Walnut Grove page?
Just one.
Then that Walnut Grove citizens input, that's not a city page, no?
No. That's a private page. And it states in here, how you designate your page for government, but that is a private page set up separate from the city. That is not this is like official government property.
That's what I'm asking. So this not applies to the,
It only applies
City
to
of Walnut
the city of Walnut. Yes, absolutely.
Just like I or anybody in our audience can have our own personal Facebook pages, we have to represent ourselves in true light. We can't misrepresent ourselves. And we can do what we want on our own personal pages. And that is your personal page, your citizen. Well, you have a group of people.
Yeah, there's a group of people that have input on that. I am only, I show up as the administrator because you have to use a personal profile to have a group. Just like you have to have a personal profile to have a city page. I'm working on talking to our legislature people about having a different access for government, because that means every time somebody that was handling the page decides to do something with it, hold it hostage. We had that happen a few years back. It took me almost 2 years when I was a vendor for the city to get our page back, because someone held it hostage and wouldn't turn it back over because their profile was what matched with that page, and they wouldn't give it to us. So it was quite a nightmare to get it back, and we were not allowed to make a new page because there was already an official page.
okay.
So we had attempted at that time to just not worry about that and make a new one, but Facebook says no. So part of this is also to set up so that we have protocol for how that happens. Who's going to be that personal profile until we can do something different? And what is the recourse to them if they try to hold us hostage?
Yeah, that's technically that Facebook page is the property of the city of Walnut Grove.
Right, but Facebook rules force us to set it up different than we would prefer.
Right.
Any further discussion? Okay. Thank you, Nancy. So on to IT tech. We have talked at length about our IT company that we want to go with. We've looked at CV3, we've looked at the selective solutions we currently are with. We have contacted the folks that you guys were talking about.
Georgia Technology Authority.
Yeah, who does not do IT work, but gives recommendations. You all have received the selective solutions quotes for a year contract. And I'm going to ask you at this point, your thoughts. on that.
I'd like to talk to you guys about VC3 because I don't think that everybody has been involved in those conversations. Maxine and I both spoke with Mr. Alex Daniel from VC3. VC3 comes highly recommended as an IT company from GMA, which is why we reached out to them. They are available for services in our area. But the bottom line is they will be more expensive. Number one. Number two,
Do we have the quote that we have got from the other one?
no.
Then why are we talking about it?
All right, fair enough. Okay. Well, what? I mean, does anybody have any questions?
To get to quote.
We asked for a quote and basically they want to do a work order for us. And they're not going to issue that until they have a chance to come into the city and sit down with our server and go through it, see what our actual needs are. But
Would you want that if you're looking for an
absolutely,
IT person?
absolutely. And we have had some trouble, some issues getting all of that accomplished. So we do have some loose quotes, but we do not have a written quote like we have from Selective Solutions. But it is for a cloud-based server. The cloud-based server that he is recommending for our city side and our needs that we were able to verbally express is going to be much more expensive than the contract from Ken, including the purchase of a new server. My opinion, if you care to hear it, is that I stay with Ken at Selective Solutions number one because he has been here all along and it's continuity for the city. He knows our needs. Him and his team are very responsive. They've taken care of us all this time and they've made sure that we are on board. And his comprehensive quote with all the pictures and all the things about redoing our network and our new server, having all the wiring and all the things corrected for public works for the municipal building and for city hall was just unmatched with EC3 in my opinion. And at this point, I think that we've changed enough. So we should stay with somebody who's already given us excellent service and can continue to do so at a deal in comparison. EC3 is quoting us between 13 and 1,500 a month.
Do we already have a contract with it?
No. With Selective Solutions, not yet.
Yeah. But they have allowed us to go month by month as we are trying to make this.
Right, and the decision is we'll sign a contract.
But didn't we have a contract with them to take care of the server?
No, they refused to take care of the server after certain alterations were done to it.
He said that, I believe this was our January 4th meeting, he said that October and November of 2023 that the server failed. And at that time, he stopped providing the tool started.
It failed on his watch, right?
The server was at its end of life. And actually it was beyond its end of life. And was using multiple USB sticks for memory instead of operating on its own accord. It didn't have enough RAM to run the server program that it needed. That's why we need a new server. Because the one we have now is.
The server we have now is 14 years old. It was purchased secondhand without a warranty or anything else.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that? Comments?
Yeah, I mean, I will state that I sat down with both VC3 and with Ken, several hours with each, discussing, the different options. And I am in agreement that we need to make a move. We had a server failure that was, my understanding from Ken, replaced with inadequate equipment to really keep us where we need to be. And I don't know the whole picture of that or what was done where, I just know that's where it is currently. And so we definitely need to do something from a server standpoint as well as the other areas of the IT department. I did have a couple questions. When he was here, he made a quote. And then when I saw a printed quote, it was larger than the quote he made when he was here. So I didn't know if you had another update because there was a time limitation on his quote.
Let's see. I did get something.
I'm sorry.
He sent us the list of all the emails of people who are still on there, and he asked us to change that. The cost of the server went from 35 to 37. I will share that with you. I've asked him to give us, I want your updated invoice.
Right.
To show us exactly the cost. As soon as I get that, I'll share that by tomorrow. I will send that on to you guys, and you can all take a look at it. And your thoughts? It's my opinion, and I know no one's asking you for it. I think it's important that we go with a company who provides a service by, if there's an issue with something at City Hall, we have someone to call and they can either do it remotely or they can come in and help. We have wonderful employees in the office, but to say that we are computer experts, we are not.
No.
And while we do have a few people on council who are very talented when it comes to computers, that's not your role and it's not your responsibility. We need to have somebody who can come out and take care of that for the city when the city employees need that. So that's just one thought.
Mayor, I have a question. You said the server was 3,700.
Mhm.
That's what it is on his original estimate.
Okay, good.
I know when Ken came out and gave a presentation, and I thought he did a great job, made perfect sense, and in some areas, he's able to save the city some money in a lot of areas, so, and I like the personal relationship that we can have with him.
Me too.
Something else he said, which I really appreciated, is he said, a year from now, I hope you all look at me and say, we don't need your services like this anymore. And I think that's good for a company to say that.
Yeah.
That way, every bug, everything has been worked out, things are really good. I mean, we've got a public works manager who can't use the email one time, can't use his program. We've got a municipal court clerk who can't print a receipt for cash payments. These are things that just shouldn't happen.
Right.
And we'll get all of it worked out. And I appreciate all the hard work y'all put into this. I didn't want to make a decision like this just on my own. I think it's important that we all say it in these big type of things. But thank you. I appreciate it. I will get that new quote to you guys as soon as possible before the next meeting, and I'd like to go ahead and put this on the next meeting, okay? On the next meeting.
Yes. Would you include that clarity, where the website falls into that? I think it's a separate contract.
It is. It is. But I will.
So we had those, because if we're gonna do this, I'd like to go ahead and approve those
Yeah.
versus
So
trying to seek out for somebody else to do the website.
okay. Has Ken always done our website?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't really.
I know the answer. I was the webmaster for a number of years, and then after that, we had Sophisticity for 1 year. And then
Yeah,
I
IT
believe
and
Ken was next on board.
IP and bots didn't have.
The same company. And VC3 sort of absorbed Sophisticity and IT and bot. from what I can understand in my gathering of information. So it's a very similar operation that's set up specifically for just, they set up a lot of business specifically for government, which does run quite different at times when it comes to the knowledge base that people have to have.
Did you try to send Chris for the website?
He does for
Would
most.
you, I want to see that too.
Okay, no problem. No problem, I'll get that also. Any more questions on that? Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the audit, and it is finished. Thank you. I really worked very closely with our auditor. We got a little bit of a late start. We were able to get an extension. The previous administration and council have been good enough to leave us in a position to be able to get that extension. If you are late 2 years in a row, you cannot get an extension. So we were eligible to get an extension since we started the process in November. Usually you started in September. The importance of doing your audit is it makes you eligible for state grants and awards in different programs. And not only that, but it gives your citizens an idea that you're doing according to what the state has mandated. Audits are required for annual expenditures of 550 or more, 550,000 or more. So we fall in that. They're required for regional commissions and submissions of the report to the DOAA, which is the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts. What they're looking for in an audit is they're not looking to see what you spend your money on or if the money is being spent properly. What they're looking for are the generally accepted government accounting principles, the accepted government auditing standards, and federal and state regulations. Since we got ours done a little bit late with approval, the due date to get it to the DOAA is by June 30th, 2023. But I believe Kimberly has already either done that or is in the process of getting that done. She's also submitting all of the past year's audits to the DOAA. Sometimes the auditor makes recommendations that the city should follow or should start to follow. We didn't get any recommendations like that. Our audit came out by our CPA, Sam, who worked with Kimberly closely, and the auditor said that it was a great audit. I'm going to ask him to come to the next meeting on this Thursday coming up. So if you have any questions, you've all received a copy of the audit, or it's in your mailbox. And then that way Sam can give us either in person or he can go ahead and write a letter for the council to understand that it was a good audit. We're in compliance. We're in good shape. As long as we have everything else done, we can go ahead and apply for grants and loans. So we're working on those things. Anybody have any questions? Yes, that was a task. Okay, on to Georgia Cities Week. This is something that kind of has snuck up. I don't know that we've ever done it here before. I could be misspeaking, but what it is, it's a chance for each city to celebrate their volunteers, their employees, different things that go on in their city. And I thought it would be great if we did this. I know a ton of employees and I know a ton of volunteers who we could celebrate. Kind of brings to light either on our Facebook page or at meetings or whatnot. I was curious, is there anybody who might be interested in kind of spearheading this? We don't have to do it huge the first year. GMA will give us a packet of information where we can follow. And is there anybody who might be interested in that?
I think it is an excellent idea.
I do too.
I'm checking.
Good. My plate is very full.
But it does say the kids are mailed out in February. Have we already missed it?
No.
We're too late?
Nope. Mm-mm.
You know what? I would be glad to help spearhead this. I was checking my calendar. That's for looking like I was on my phone, but.
I'd be happy to help too.
Yeah.
I think it's something great and I think it's something we should do, focus on. Okay, Does anybody have any questions about that?
I was just checking my calendar so that I could tell you if I could offer to help. And I think so. So if you want to like mastermind maybe how you want to do it, then I'll be happy to help too.
Remember, we can start small our first year. We don't have to start big. But it would be nice to be a part of something.
Maybe just come together with a list. And then I know that the business post, you can pre-plan them to make things a little easier. But yeah, okay, cool. I think it's awesome.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Comments? Okay. The next thing is the text amendment to the ERU. I don't know if we got that out to you guys. I know Jimmy came and he talked to us. Here's an ERU text amendment from when we switched it from 250 to 210. Previous council did. And then it was brought up again by me that, for me from Precision Planning, that it would be a good idea to go back to 250. Because a lot of the homes in Enclave at Dial Farm and are bigger than the originals. More families are living in homes, or more numbers of people, bigger houses with more bathrooms. We can, if we go over the limit, that is a fiasco. Right now, we're not near it. We're not, because we still have houses being built. But with his recommendation of going back to 250, I think that's a wise thing to do. Fortunately, we're looking at a expansion, but that was the recommendation from Jimmy. You guys have any thoughts on that? Any comments?
I think that's an excellent idea. Georgia is in a major housing crisis. We do not have enough homes. So if anything, we're gonna have, multiple family residences coming in to live together. A lot of those houses at the Enclave are 5 bedrooms. So, I mean, you just think that you have one master, and then what if you have 2 children per bedroom?
Right.
That's a lot of people in one household. So I think it is a very good idea to go back to 50.
We just had somebody call from the Enclave looking for assistance because they have a neighbor who has 8 cars parked at their home. And he said that 5 families are living there. Now, this is somebody calling in, and we recommended that they went and talked with the HOA for the Enclave. But I think you're right. I think that we're going to see a lot more families moving in together and having a lot more people. And it's a little discerning that the idea that we could go over once all those homes are built is a little unnerving. So I was going to speak with you, Mr. Powell, if we could, or actually I can go ahead and do that with Joe. Ask him to do a text amendment to go ahead and raise it back up from 210 to 250, and that we bring it to the next meeting next week. Unless there's concern or questions or anything like that.
I can state that when this was done, I was against making that move to begin with, so I'm in agreement that it needs to go back.
I do have a question. When it goes back, will we be over our percentages for commercial versus residential? Is that something we need to look at?
Right now, I'm going to put in a request to Jimmy Parker at Precision to take back over the tracking of sewer. And so when he gets those numbers together, I would be happy to bring it to you. I do not know the answer to that though, but I can get it for you.
So this will be on the next
Yes.
meeting.
You mentioned the percentage split. Is that something we can look at?
Is that something you want to look at before this Thursday? Next Thursday? Right?
Well, I just don't know what the time would be. Is it something we could look at before we move into phase 2
Oh, absolutely.
to change
We're gonna have to look at that,
Okay,
definitely.
all right, so
Mhm.
you're talking with them, so the appropriate time, yes, I would like to see that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Okay, anything else? All right. All right. This I did not share with you ahead of time. This is something I learned about at the recent training I'm required to go to along with Maxine and Rachel. And on the, they do a mock meeting at our training. It's the last thing that they do. And on the back page of the agenda, they have a rules of decorum that they expected the public, which I was the public at that time, and also the mayor, council, committee, boards, or commissions to follow. And it's something that would be adopted by the city of Walnut Grove. If you all felt that this was something that would be valuable to us, to our citizens, and if something you want to see on the back of our agendas, and perhaps framed as a gentle reminder as we hold these meetings.
Mayor, I agree and applaud this effort. I think that this is, long overdue. It couldn't be more important.
And I'm just going to read to everybody in the audience, just a basic. The purpose of the rules of decorum is to foster an atmosphere of civil and courteous discourse, even and especially when discussing contentious topics at all meetings held by the city of Walnut Grove, and rules applicable to the public. Each speaker will be given a certain number of minutes for public comment. Each speaker will direct his or her comments to the mayor or presiding officer and not to any other individual present. Each speaker will refrain from personal attacks, foul, or abusive language and will maintain a civil and courteous manner and tone. Each speaker will speak only to the agenda item under consideration. This does not apply during the public comment agenda item. Members of the audience will respect the rights of others and will not create noise or other disturbances that will disrupt or disturb the meeting. And then the rules for members of mayor and council, committees, boards, and commissions. Members will conduct themselves in a professional and respectful manner at all meetings. Members will not speak until recognized by the mayor or presiding officer. I'm a little wonky on that one. Remarks by members will be directed to the mayor or presiding officer, who will then direct the appropriate person to answer. Any violation of the rules of decorum may result in the violator being removed from the premises. So that way we all treat each other with respect and afford each other the time to speak freely. Any other thoughts?
I think it is excellent, which I think also will probably go in with the city of civility.
Are there any other thoughts on this?
Well, Mayor, I'll just say, you know, some of these things are more or less covered in our ordinances and or possibly in the charter. And of course, when making a meeting and we're involving the public, especially letting them know the rules up front. So I think this just gives an added measure for what the expectations are. So I think it certainly does not hurt to have this as something that is done consistently.
Absolutely, I agree.
And maybe even put a reminder too that they're being recorded is when they speak.
No, you're right though. I mean, you are being recorded. You're right.
And maybe everybody that walks in the door didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Very true.
I do have a question for Mr. Powell.
Mhm.
When it comes to freedom of speech, is this gonna get us in any type of legal trouble?
It sure can. It's exactly the same thing as your Facebook page. You gotta be careful. Your rules of decorum are correct. You can restrict speech by time limits, which is really good. And enforcing those time limits is really an important part of making sure everybody is treated the same. Content of that speech, it's often not very pleasant to be a council member in a meeting where somebody's really saying some harsh things, but it happens a lot. And they have a right to do that, and can't be interfered with. So I've come into the rule a couple of times where microphones have been turned off. But both times that I'm aware that occurred, it was a decorum issue and probably a right one. You know, it was not very pleasant what was being said. And I think the smallest amount paid by the city for doing that was about $20,000. It's an expensive process to violate free speech. So it's just got to be, it's great to have the rules. It's enforcement of the rules is where you have to be really cautious. And it's always a good idea to have security. You know, y'all do it on a regular basis. If you're regular meeting, just to have, when you think those things are going to be coming up because issues are controversial, it's always good to have that presence. You probably get to the point where those people are going to step in is probably where the First Amendment line is drawn. Otherwise, your saving grace is the time limit. Once the time limit's up, then they can be escorted out for violating that. So.
Okay.
So short time limits are important. Some instances.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because this, what you were saying, Mr. Powell brought up a question. I recall seeing, I believe it's in our parliamentary procedure comment, that we are to appoint a parliamentarian, which we have not done. So, would they be the ones to help the enforcement here and need the most training, so to speak?
Probably not usually,
Okay.
that they're, I lived with a parliamentarian for a couple of years at City of Snellville, and he was present for every meeting. And it was just, the controversy over emotions, was what he told them how to do it. And we got so precise in the communication that they needed, and he was great. He helped make it through that very difficult time period. But most of the times you have a parliamentarian who doesn't come, but you refer matters for resolution. Did you do this right? Okay, well, we'll table that, come back to the next meeting, bring it back up, consult our parliamentarian. There's a really good booklet from the GMA on parliamentary procedures for council members. Y'all may have seen it this past week. It takes care of 95% of those types of issues, and the mayor is the first line of interpretation of those things as the presiding officer. And then if it goes beyond that, then probably it's good to table the issue and consult with an expert.
In that ordinance, it does say that a parliamentarian may be appointed, not that one has to be.
Okay.
I think that's correct, yeah.
That's great. If we get to that, we don't go All right, so I am going to put this on the agenda to adopt this, okay? And it will be there and you all will decide. Okay, the last thing on the agenda of this portion, the new business, is the City of Civility. This is something that GMA is really interested in getting their cities to be a part of, and quite honestly, the idea of civility appeals to me a great deal. Here you go. Thank you very much. This first thing I'm sending to you is something about embrace civility. As the 9 pillars of civility: be considerate of others, manage your emotions, a silent voice is not always a weak voice, be kind, actively listen, learn how to engage respectfully, think about the impact of your actions, ask questions to learn, answer questions with respect, remember the acronym QTIP, quit taking it personal. Have empathy. Just because you have not experienced it does not mean it does not exist. The civility pledge would go along with the other We go along with the other document, where the rules of decorum on the back. And the civility pledge states, the way we govern ourselves is often as important as the positions we take. Our collective decisions will be better when differing views have had the opportunity to be fully vetted and considered. All people have the right to be treated with respect, courtesy, and openness. We value all input. We commit to always conduct ourselves with civility and courtesy to each other. And there is a resolution that GMA has offered up that everybody can take a look at. If you all would like to have a discussion about this and put it on next week's agenda, we can do that. If you'd like a little more time to think about it, you can do that too.
So I learned about this initiative when I took my elected official training, and I love it.
I remember you suggested.
Yeah, I am 100% on board. I think it's excellent.
There is a mayor from the city of Madison who just personifies respect for others, civility, listening. He is just a really interesting and really good person. And I've had the good fortune to be in a couple of his meetings, and the mayors were just invited to his city for a breakfast. That's something he started quarterly. And he speaks very highly of the City of Civility initiative from GMA. And I think if this is something we do and we take in and we embrace, and this is how we treat people and each other, there's no way we can go wrong. And so I would like to go ahead and put this on the next week agenda if you are in favor of that. For a vote on the ordinance, and I will get a copy of that to you too. And unless there's some question or comments or against or vote.
I think it's wonderful, and I wholeheartedly support that. That initiative to get voted in.
I support it as well. I've been taking some classes that dealt with a lot of this and was making my notes to maybe bring something like this in. So this is right where we want to be with it.
Okay, anything else? Nope. Okay. We're gonna go on to old business. Employee manual through page 10. Who had a chance to review this? Anybody?
I did.
Okay. Discussion? Any comments? Oh my. Let me ask you a question. Is this something you all would rather see in a committee, or would you rather see here with everybody?
Oh, I think at this point, we're with everybody, in my opinion, because I know Linda put a lot of work into this before, into even getting us with the personnel handbook. And so I think now we're just fine tuning.
Okay. Okay. Is everybody good with that?
I'd recommend having a roundtable discussion with your employees and get some ideas from them.
You already did that, didn't you?
Yeah, but you didn't.
Oh, I've had lots of discussions with the employees.
All at once about the handbook.
No, not all at once about the
I
handbook.
would suggest you do.
Well, I have talked with all of the employees about different issues in the city and things that are going on and things that should be happening and perhaps aren't, or things that aren't. And I really believe that it's up to the administration to create the handbook in fairness. And then when it's created, at that point, talk with some employees if needed. But if anybody else feels otherwise, please bring that up. Linda, you obviously feel differently about that.
I agree with Stephanie. I think that the employees have a lot on their hands, so to go through the handbook page by page.
No, I'm not saying go through page by page. I'm saying whatever decisions that we make as a group, they're gonna have to live with. So you might want to have some of their ideas in front of you, something they would like to see in the handbook.
Well,
Or
I think
changes.
I think I have spoken pretty friendly with the employees and asked them on different occasions, like uniforms, boots, salaries. I've spoken at length with each employee, almost every employee, about salaries, benefits, the future, making decisions on their own rather than being micromanaged by me. Expectations. I've had at length discussions with every employee about that and what is expected. When you need help, to let me know. I think it's been very clear, and they know that they can come to me about anything. Will I sit there and just give them a raise because they asked for it? Told them I'm not in
I'm
a
not
position to
saying
do
you
that.
should, I'm saying you take their feelings and their thoughts into consideration.
I do believe in taking into consideration employees' thoughts and feelings, but I also believe it's the administration's job to set the expectations.
I agree with Stephanie on this one. It's definitely our job as councilman Warren, or her job as mayor and CEO for the city to set our policies that we expect our employees to have and to adhere by while they are under our employment. And so far, the first 10 pages, I don't see any need for any further.
I have a few things highlighted, but Maxine, you look like you have. Yes, page 10. I was gonna go ahead and see if Maxine touched on my subject before.
Actually, some of these that I have marked are just things to correct as we go through, so I won't cover those right now. But some of the questions I had was like on the pay plan, and we're talking about accumulation of 40 hours, the very first section. Do we have time constraints associated with that? That's for comp time. In other words, is there a limitation as to how much comp time that can be accrued, or to what time frame it could be used? In other words, can they accumulate comp time over 10 years? And then the next thing we know, we're paying them for a whole year's salary.
Well, vacation time, their vacation time doesn't roll over from year to year. And their personal times, I think it's capped at 720 hours. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, this one's about the comp time. I don't know that I had any questions.
That's a very good question, Maxine. I don't know the answer.
Okay. Well, I'm saying if we don't have it in here, is it something we want?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't remember us ever putting anything in here on comp time.
It's Article 2, pay plan, Section 1, compensatory time and overtime.
Oh, and that's another issue too, is like if you've got articles, the way it's titled, that's off. Because you've got Article 2 there, Section 3. It's the,
numbering.
Yes.
Everything is off.
yes.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I don't want to. I'm sorry that, I don't want to waste anybody's time. And I appreciate the fact that you've gone through that. Perhaps you and I can get together
Absolutely.
and work on the employee manual. Share it with everybody as we get 10 pages or 15 pages done at a time. Let everybody take a look at what the changes were, if there were any changes. And you go ahead and give your response back and see if we can come up with a final document that we can get to you guys and you can read it through based on your recommendations back to us without wasting their time and your time here. If you guys are in favor of that or okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with that. So do you want us to just go through the manual, express our concerns? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, most of what I've got noted would be more like bookkeeping or housekeeping things.
Yeah. I'm also gonna be working closely with our attorneys to make sure that we are following the rules of the state. We have some things that we haven't addressed in here that we do need to address. And go forth from that way, but I'm not gonna sit here tonight and waste everybody's time. Is that okay with everybody? All right. Okay. All right, the last thing on the agenda are ordinances and resolutions, and these we are doing final reading on, I think, tonight.
So these are ordinances from your last, which were really targeted towards the consent agenda. They have already been adopted by council one time. They didn't get signed. And so it's going through the process again so that we have a minutes record of all of those ordinances getting approved.
So we'll put these on your consent agenda for the next meeting. Get them approved, and then we will sign them this time and get them in the book. Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Tony. Okay, we are going to executive session. Do I hear a motion? We're going into executive session for real estate, and in the future, on our agendas, we will write down the reason for why we're going out. That was my mistake. And we are going out for real estate.
A motion to adjourn to executive session for real estate matter.
A second.
All in favor?
Oh my gosh. So I paid a visit to my primary school today
I saw that.
where I did my first ever musical performance.
Just don't get too serious.
Was it on the wall?
No, but I just came out with the 5-year singing via.
Okay.
You can turn the lights off.
Yeah, you're fine. Are we still live? We are, right?
Yeah, we're still.
Okay.
I think
So we need to go ahead.
them to come back from executive session.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
I
Okay. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Just a report, there's no action taken and no official business.
No action taken in the executive session and no official. Or vote on. Okay. Is there
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
all in favor?
I-
Okay. We're out.